Hello, guys. Good day. Welcome to another exciting episode of Global Agro Connect podcast with you guy, Aka Joshua Salvation, the Agro King. And I bring you good tidings from the Global Agro Connect family, and also to top it all and actually double the bundle of joy, we have a guest speaker. Today I'm going to be interviewing a student of Agricultural Training School, Elisha Leventis Foundation. He is actually a crop guru and an intending farmer. As you know, he's an outspoken personality, and actually I have so much to say, but we just have a few minutes to spend here. We are going to be discussing on a very important topic that affects each and every one of us today. As we know, poverty is on the rise. Food production is actually low, not meeting the number of persons or the global demand of people in the world today, and we all have to play a part in actually getting this problem, or would I say mitigating or eradicating this problem. We all have a part to play in it. So we are going to be talking about dry season farming. We all know what happens during dry season in Nigeria. Food get very expensive due to the fact that rainfall is less. But if each and every one of us take a part to listen, or actually take would I say the initiative to listen to this podcast, you actually learn a lot about how you can actually do your Fadama cropping and actually help the world to be a better place by improving food production. Our guest speaker is by name Mr. Umuse Moses. He's a student of Leventis Foundation, as I rightly introduced him, and he's actually going to be taking us through this journey of Fadama production, or Fadama crop production. So please, let's listen as he actually addresses us. Over to you, sir.
Hello, good evening. My name is Umuse Moses. I'm a student of Leventis Foundation, Osun State. So we're here this evening to talk about Fadama cropping. And as Mr. Joshua has said earlier on, he said that as a result of lack of rain during the dry season, so it leads to kind of shortage of foods and things like that. So now we're going to be introducing a system to you that will actually help you during this dry season. So Mr. Joshua will be kind of interviewing me and asking me some questions concerning this type of farming, which is called Fadama cropping. So I hope you'll be with us here, and you'll be able to get one or two things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that. And I forgot to mention that will actually help me chip in that I was going to be an interview that I'm going to actually be asking you some questions in order for us to be able to milk out the juice of knowledge in you. All right. Get your fingers crossed. Get your jotter if you have to, because this is actually going to be an exciting adventure, an exciting journey. So over to you, sir. Please, can you actually tell us what really is Fadama cropping? What is Fadama cropping? Because several people out there do not know. So help us inform them.
Well, to start with, Fadama cropping is also known as dry season farming or irrigation farming. In this Fadama cropping, one thing you do is that you make sure that your farmland is located close to a stream or a well or probably a borehole. So in that case, you will be able to supply water to your crops during the dry season. I think that's the reason it's called Fadama cropping.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. I think those outside or those listening have actually been able to grasp the meaning of the word Fadama, the meaning of the word Fadama. Alright, sir, what is really actually the aims and objectives? We would love to know the aims and objectives, why people should actually go into Fadama cropping. What are the aims and the objectives of Fadama cropping?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I really appreciate. When it comes to Fadama cropping, many people just, know the word Fadama cropping, but they don't really know the advantage of, going into Fadama cropping. Now, I'll be enlightening on the advantages of Fadama cropping. One is that it keeps the farmer busy throughout the year. Those times when dry season comes and, most farmers will kind of switch their attention to something else, probably doing something different. But when it comes to Fadama cropping, you are always busy. Why? Because there is water supply from probably the well, the borehole, or the stream.
Wow, thank you so much, sir, for that aim of Fadama cropping. We would love to know, or we'd love to get more aims of this Fadama cropping. What are more advantages? I actually know the listeners are actually itching to hear or to actually get more of these aims of Fadama cropping from you.
Okay. Another advantage of further cropping is that it gives the farmer more money. Yeah. Look these times that dry season, most farmers around you they'll probably switch their attention to something else, like I said earlier on, probably involved in maybe anything different from farming because there's no more rain. And you as a fadama farmer, you have the advantage to irrigation, which is supplying your crops with water. And during those times, most farmer will not be engaged in farm activities. So you will be the only one supplying probably the markets around you with your crops and everything you're producing on your farmland. And in that time, things will be so expensive. Why? You're the only one supplying, and it will bring about more money in your account.
Thank you so much, sir. You've actually hit the nail on the head on this more money of a thing. I know. I would also like to chip in something very little. I think I've actually learned a little about this Fadama cropping that during Fadama period or during the Fadama farming system, since it's actually the competition is very low in the marketplace, you will actually be able to sell off as much product as you produce. And as we know, during dry season, products are actually very expensive, so you're actually going to be making more money due to the fact that one, there is low competition, and two, probably your goods will be highly demanded for. So sir, I would actually be getting back to you now. What are more aims? Like seriously, I want to learn so much more from you.
Okay. Another aims of further cropping is that there are some kind of crops that they don't like too much of water, like that they cannot actually hold much water. Crops like that are tomato. So in this further cropping, when you actually supply your tomato with a limited amount of water, it helps the tomato to grow very well and grow very fast. So further cropping is one of the main source through which you can grow your tomato very well, and you have your money, because tomato is a kind of crops that don't actually take too much water. And when the water is too much for tomato, I bet your farm is going to get spoiled and things like that, and it will lead to shortage.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for that. And really, I learned from that thing you said, because I've actually witnessed that before in areas where there's excess rainfall and we actually have this loamy clay soil. It can actually the percolation or would I say the water retention capacity of the soil, since it is very high, it should actually keep the soil waterlogged and get the tomatoes rotting, and it actually destroys several of the crops. I think I've seen it several places before, and I've actually heard some farmers complain about that. And the would I say the solution that has been given to them is either planting in greenhouses, which I tell you is very expensive to establish greenhouses these days. But through this Fadama farming, like you said, I think several farmers can actually incorporate this method to actually grow spices or vegetables such as that, tomatoes and the rest of them. Thank you so much. We actually have more questions and more questions for you. So please, the next question I would love to ask is, what are actually the factors that a farmer or one needs to consider before actually embarking on this Fadama farming journey?
Well, Mr. Joshua, I really appreciate for that question you just asked me, because to be frank with you, there are so many things you need to consider before going into further cropping. And please get your pen as I'm about to list them. One thing you need to consider, this is, let me say, I don't know how to actually explain this, but please, I'm trying to tell you that this is very important when it comes to further cropping. And listen, please, this is actually talking about the topography of the land. When we talk about topography here, we're talking about the kind of, I'm sorry, yeah, when we talk about topography, we're actually talking about the slope of the land. Now we're dealing with water, and if the land is a bit slopy, there's a way when you can actually put your water on your farmland. You know that when it's slopy, definitely that kind of land cannot retain water. Your water will just flow off like an erosion, as you all know. So when your land is plain, like, you understand what I'm trying to say, like it's plain and everything is okay, so it tends to hold water, I mean hold the water you supply in your crops, and everything will go fine.
Thank you so much, sir. So you're talking about a flat surface land is actually the best for Fadama cropping since there is no runoff, unlike the slopy landscape. Wow, thank you so much, sir. Please, we would like you to actually give, since you said we have so much more things you need to consider, we'd love to hear more from you, sir.
Okay. Another thing you consider in fadama cropping is the soil type. Now, listen. Now, when talk about the soil type, there's a kind of soil when it comes to fadama cropping. If you have that kind of soil in that area, please don't involve yourself in fadama cropping. Soil like clay soil. You see, this kind of clay soil is not actually the best when it comes to fadama cropping. So I would advise you, probably you want to go into fadama cropping, I would like you to consider loamy soil. I think that is the best soil when it comes to fadama cropping.
Thank you so much. And I've also heard that sandy loamy actually does well, and several people in the northern part have actually most times they actually, since their soil is mostly sandy, they are not advised to go into fadama cropping anyway, since they can't supply if they actually do not have access to large area of water. But since you've talked about fadama as being situated close to a water source, just like river, I think sandy soil can actually, or sandy loamy can actually do well with fadama cropping, unlike loamy, which is actually waterlogging. Wow, thank you so much, sir. And what are other things you actually would love to tell us about this fadama cropping?
Now, another thing about fadama cropping is the water. Now, let me say, you see, without the water when it comes to fadama cropping, it's as if you're practicing something different from fadama cropping, because the water you supply in your crops makes it fadama cropping. Now, your water is the number one thing that should be on your list. I mean, that should top the chart when you're actually bringing out the things you want to, consider before going into fadama cropping. Please, you make sure that you have a good location of water close to your farm. So that's one thing you need to consider before going into fadama cropping.
Thank you so much, Mr. Umuse Moses, for this knowledge, or would I say this inspiring thing you've actually chipped in, as water supply being the number one criteria for embarking on fadama cropping. So we'd love, Mr. Moses, we would love to also ask you what advice can you actually give to other youth out there on farming in general? Because I've actually realized that several youth have actually developed this cold feet towards farming since they believe it's actually stressful. But since I know there are new innovations in farming, what advice can you actually give to them out there?
Well, my advice to youth out there is that, considering the fact that economy of Nigeria is going down the drain every day, it's actually a good time for the youth to kind of sit up and consider agriculture. I would say agriculture is one of the factor that will kind of lift the economy of Nigeria up in few years to come, because considering what is happening in the country now, we all know about the oil that we're kind of boasting on. It's going. The oil is going. So it will be fine for the youth to consider agriculture. And let me tell you, youth kind of think about that. Agriculture is difficult. Agriculture is tedious. I don't want to go to farm, things like that. But no. Let me tell you, you can farm from your bedroom if you have the facility. Yeah. And that facility is made available already. So all you just need to do is to get a good place where you get the skill, get the needed knowledge for you to go into agriculture, and I bet you won't regret taking such a decision. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would love to applaud you. Like, seriously, you've done a great job today on our podcast episode, and I am so happy having you in the midst. And would I say a good thanks, or a great thanks to you from the Global Agro Connect family. I wanted to say the Leventis family, our students, yeah. So from the Global Agro Connect family, like, this is actually one of the mind-blowing thing about interviewing someone. You get to milk out the juice of intelligence from them. Like, seriously, and he's doing this. He's actually featuring on our podcast without pay. This is actually very nice. It's very nice. So it's actually a privilege listening to an intelligent personality like this. It's would I say, we've come to the end of this podcast. Don't feel bad. Bringing you another episode of the podcast next week Saturday. Sit tight. Subscribe, like I said before. Follow us on social media, on Facebook at Global Agro Connect. On Instagram, gac.2020. And if you wish to join our Telegram channel, or would I say our Telegram family, you can do well to click on the link below this podcast to join. Thank you so much for listening, and this is goodbye from me.